Welcome to another Convos with Clenergy. I'm out here today with the famous Lily Pejkic. Did I say that right?
Yes, you did.
Would you like to start off by just introducing yourself for the viewers?
Yes, so my name is Lily, for those of you that don't know me. I work for Sydney Solar and Batteries. It's also my company that I started. I started off doing contracting work and, now we're doing a lot of word of mouth work, so that's really good.
I think the viewers are going to be keen to really hear your story and unpack it a little bit more. So can we move our way all the way back to the time when you were an apprentice and sort of work our way up from there?
I was actually studying at uni. I was studying environmental science and I was working for the power company. I was working in their call centre and they were on a recruit. They were on a recruit to have more females in the industry, so more female apprentices. So they approached a lot of us that were working there. They were like, would you like to do an apprenticeship? And I thought, what am I going to do with an apprenticeship? I've got no idea, So 1 year went past. Then they asked me again the next year and I thought, why not? What have I got to lose? So I ended up working through that apprenticeship. I had 2 kids during the apprenticeship. So
wow.
The apprenticeship.
That's kind of rare, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. They were quite supportive. So like the support was there, the mentoring, everything was there and it was available. So, I had 1 kid, then I had another kid sort of like a year and 3 months apart. I still continued my apprenticeship. I finished that off. I stayed on. I worked for the company for about 10 years. And that's when, I went out. I took a redundancy. I started doing contracting work. I did level 2 metering work. I found that really boring. It was just repetitive every day. It wasn't rewarding. And then I went on to do a solar and battery accreditation. And then that's when I picked up a lot of solar work. That's where I know Jack from. So some of that contracts I used to work with, Jack used to run that.
Jack,
our famous Jack.
Jack Long?
Yes.
Longy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so if it wasn't for Jack, I wouldn't be here, to be honest. So
there's a shout out to you, Jack.
That's where the relationship sort of started. And then, word of mouth grew. I contracted to several other retailers that didn't have installers. I used to do a lot of work for builders and architects when I was contracting. I know a lot of the guys don't like doing that work. It's quite fiddly. You're back to site multiple times. I quite like the building process, the project management side of things. And, here I am.
That to me seems quite difficult to have 2 kids during your apprenticeship time. Did you have to extend that time or? So
I for the leave, like the leave that I took off between the 2 a year, I had to extend the apprenticeship. Okay. So yeah.
And you mentioned that you were mentored pretty well. Like, was there any particular people or situations where that mentoring really helped during that period?
I think the whole company was supportive. So it was Energy Australia at the time that got privatised and it became Ausgrid. Okay. So, I know a lot of the guys that are in the solar industry that left Ausgrid and went over to solar work. Just the whole structure was very supportive. Like, and if I didn't have that support, I really wouldn't be here today. So hats off to the people that run those programs. Even in the workshop. So we had a lot of workshop stuff to do. We had welding. You had to make things like battery chargers. You were taught hands-on, experience, and then you went out into the field, substation construction, level 2 work, wiring work. So transformer maintenance, protection. So you just went around to the different groups. Obviously you'd find some people that you worked with that are a bit like, I guess if guys can be hairdressers, girls can be electricians, and you're like, yeah, okay.
Was there a bit of that?
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I think sometimes they were like, what's going on? A bit frazzled. They're not used to this situation. There's now a female here. They just take a little bit of time to warm up to you, Okay. Yeah.
Did you find that element of it challenging at all? Or?
I don't know. For me personally, no, but I know a few others. It was very intimidating, you know. So there was an aspect where there was a boys' club, I suppose. I just got on with a lot of people. Maybe some things weren't evident and noticeable to me that were quite offensive. You know, some other people found them offensive, but yeah, like we didn't have female toilets in a lot of the sites. You know, we'd have to use the
For real?
Yeah. It was just normal. That was a normal thing. Yeah.
Is that still a normal thing? Or?
I'd say a lot of the sites. Yeah. So they've started introducing it. So, you know, but back in the days, it was always it was a male role, you know. There was always male toilets. Like even on the substations, you'd only find male toilets. So you just have to share with them.
Okay.
You know.
So we've still got a bit of work to do there.
Yeah, it's slowly catching up. I think it's evolved a lot in the 10 years. So from when I started to when I sort of finished, and even now, like several years after, it's changed dramatically.
Would you have any, like if there was any young girls looking to follow a similar path, would you have any sort of message to them?
Definitely. So a lot of people call up and they're like, hey, I really want to do an apprenticeship. Have you got a spot for me? So I'm like, sometimes as a small business, it's really difficult, you know, to put someone on like that because they need a lot of mentoring and supervision. So when you're spread out and, you know, you're on site and you don't have a dedicated person to teach someone every day, it becomes quite difficult to take them on because, you know, in the long term, it's going to affect them. What they learn will be, you know, limited to your availability. So I would definitely recommend these organisations, or larger corporate organisations, or even some other larger small businesses that have programs and structures in place to take on apprentices, apply. You know, you've got your Essential, you've got your Endeavour Energy, you've got your Ausgrid, you've got your rail networks, some of the larger corporates, and then you've got medium businesses as well that, you know, always take on several apprentices a year. So apply, just don't be shy.
Is there any of the medium ones that you can think of off the top of your head in Sydney or surrounds?
Are we speaking solar or electrical?
Solar or electrical?
None that I can think of. I don't know who's taking on apprentices at the moment. I don't know their business structure. So just look into it, call. Sometimes even resumes, do up a resume, you know, write about your and send it off to some companies, call them up and say, I'm looking to do an apprenticeship and here's my resume.
Yeah, cool. So you mentioned Jack earlier, Longy. You said he helped you with the solar side of things?
When I was doing the contracting work, he was one of the engineers, I think, for the company, you know, so he was like technical support, yeah? So if there was any questions, design issues, you know, something that you weren't sure of, Jack and a few others were always available for help. You know, they were very helpful.
Okay. And because he was working for the company that you were contracting for, was it?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, right, gotcha. Because I know obviously Jack spends a lot of time on the social media channels as well, and I think you too.
Well, and I think that's how I got onto the site. I was like, what group do I join to just learn more and find more information and connect with other people? I was like, I didn't know anyone, you know, other than me and the guys and whoever I was contracting with. Those conversations, it was quite limited. You couldn't just call someone up and be like, hey, I've got this issue or I've got this problem that I need to solve. What do I do here? Or I haven't come across this before. It doesn't really exist. And so that's how the group has been helpful. Yeah.
Is there any particular groups that have been really helpful on social media or any platforms at all?
Well, the solar cutters, that's the only group that I sort of reference, and, you know, you can go through the files, you can ask questions. Some people are a bit intimidated about asking questions because you're going to get throttled because you're...
Does that still happen? I don't know.
Yeah. I see. I'm like, oh, that's a little bit brutal. Yeah, you see, I think, you know, just got to... sometimes too, a lot of us know each other outside of the group. So sometimes, you know, our friendly conversations might look a bit weird online, I suppose. And I feel like saying, hey, we're friends. Like, don't take this to heart. We're just, paying each other out. So yeah, there's a lot of that goes on, a little bit of banter and, paying each other out. But yeah, that's it's good to have someone there. Like, this industry can be quite lonely. Sometimes you are working by yourself. Sometimes you don't have people to talk to or call upon. So it's good for your mental state, I suppose. If you're part of a group and a network and you can connect with other people, then solar cutter is very good for that.
Yeah. So I mean, besides the I guess the general ribbing of each other sometimes. It's a force for good at the end of the day.
Exactly. There's a lot of information that is shared that you would not know. You only know by being part of the group, and there's a lot of experience. There's guys that have been in the industry for many years, and that's where I've come across like other females in the industry, like I didn't know other females existed in the industry. I thought, I was like a lone wolf out in the big bad world. So, and then seeing all these other successful women running their own solar companies, or co-director or general manager in other industries, engineers, like sales managers, like there's a whole plethora of people that you come across and you wouldn't know about them. And only through solar cutters, that the connections and networks have been made. Yeah.
I haven't been on there myself for maybe I took a little break for the last 6 months or so. But I remember when I was on there previously, you were really active, like exceptionally active. The most active, actually.
Doing roof work and whatever work and could ask a question quickly.
Is that still the case? Has it changed or do you still find yourself on there quite regularly?
I suppose I multitask. Sometimes, like something will come up in my mind, a question, and I'm like, I've got to put this question out before I forget about it, and then I'll get back to it later. And so I'm always forward thinking, and sometimes when you're running projects and working with builders and architects and something's coming up that's tricky, you're like, I'll put this question out there and then I've got something to reference later. So
that's cool. So you can kind of park it there.
Yeah. Well, that's how
That's how you use it.
That's how my mind works. So
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. Actually, I like that. Because obviously, more and more, especially more and more suppliers are starting to be on those groups as well, and keeping an eye out for any comments or suggestions or criticisms or whatever it might be. A lot of the ideas that Clenergy have gotten for product improvements, or just looking at the general trend gauging the general mood of the market, comes from those types of places. So it's very valuable for everybody, really. So you went through your apprenticeship and worked for a few different companies, and then ended up as a contractor. How does the business look now compared to sort of when you started? Can you take us through that journey as well?
Yeah, so when I started, I was purely contract basis, So it was just, you're like a little working machine, you just, you learn to be efficient, you learn to be like structured, all the work, you've got deadlines and timelines. There's, this industry, it's quite brutal, I find. You've got to put the hours in to be rewarded. You can't afford to slack off, as a contractor, I know a lot of people are like, oh, contractors are overpaid, but they're rewarded well by putting in the time and effort, So like, just I was always about like the numbers. Like I always knew that there was a certain amount of jobs and size of the job that I needed to do to hit the quota, to make sure that the workflow was going, to cover the rainy days, the holiday period. So that's how, like, I was sort of structured as a contractor, and that's all I did, pretty much 7 days a week. It got to a point where it was too much, like the contracting work, in terms of like the customers started calling me. They're like, I've got Wi-Fi issues. When are you coming to site? And I'm like, hold on a sec, you've got to go back to the company. So I found myself like, project manager, customer service, IT, installer, all rolled into one. I was like, I just need to take a break from this for a bit. So I took a break for a month or so. And then just started noticing like the word of mouth calls started coming through. And as they started coming through, and I was like, well, maybe this is viable. Maybe if we do our own systems like design, supply and install, it'll be viable. And then I still back up the work with contract work. I've still got relationships with other people that I'll install for. And it's just really for the guys, the guys at in the team, in the field, in the office. It's just to make sure they've got the work. It's a little bit more stressful, I suppose. As a contractor, you can just do your work. You're structured in a way where you just like you're there to do the job, and then off you go. There's a different aspect when you're doing your own jobs. You're selling, your stock, your admin. There's after sales, installing. There's all sorts of aspects that go into it. So, but it can be more rewarding because you've got more control of the job itself, and then the type of jobs that you do. And a lot of my work does come from builders and architects, and I just really enjoy the building side of things, where I know a lot of guys would just not go near those jobs.
Why is that?
So a lot of the time they're quite demanding. So like a lot of the times I'll go to site, I'll meet with a builder, I'll meet with a client. I'm like, what do you want? What's your schedule of work? When's your chip rocket coming in? When are you getting your roof done? When are we cabling? Are we provisioning for a battery? So we'll go through all that. You've just got to be organised, and then oftentimes it's last minute with builders. So like, they'll call you on a Friday afternoon and they're like, I need you to come in Monday to put rods in. That's what we did this Monday. So you've got to, accommodate them, I suppose. Yeah.
You mentioned the guys before, like your team, I presume you're talking about. What's the team? What's the structure of the business now?
So the structure, we've just got one installation team at the moment, and then we've got subbies that we use for ring-in work. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So was that, so you've gone from, working for yourself effectively to managing a team now?
Yeah, I still go to site. I suppose with the word of mouth work, people are like, where's Lily?
Okay.
So a lot of the times I send the guys and they're like, oh, they're calling for me. Like, no, you'll be right. Just tell them I'm coming. They're like, no, they're waiting for you. They
for
want
real?
You here. Yeah. So, so I still go to site, more the project management side of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than installing.
What are the plans? So if you're the brand, right, effectively, that's going to make it more difficult to scale, I suppose.
Yeah, so just recruiting for people that I can replicate, that can be me, that can replace me in the field. That it's quite difficult, especially with those high-end builders and architects. But I'm hoping that I'm on the right track at the moment. So
okay,
yeah.
So what does Sydney Solar and Batteries look like in 3 years from now, do you think?
Oh, it's still in that market of sustainability, energy efficiency, tailored designs, residential, commercial customers, people that are not looking for necessarily a quick ROI. So people that want like a custom tailored design. So just with the environmental side of things, sustainability, I'm doing my own duplex and I'm hoping to incorporate all those things. So it's just something that I want people to understand, builders, architects. I find that often it's too late in the process, like they should have engaged us earlier on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So still heading down that track. Yeah, that's where I want to position myself. So.
Okay. So I guess consulting early on those building projects to make sure that, the things that need to occur
correct
prior to the whatever stage.
And just the thought process, like, energy efficiency, heat pumps, batteries, where's all this going? Where are we provisioning for them, or where are you going to put them? Is it compliant? Sometimes you get someone calling, we're ready for solar, and it's too late in the process sometimes to, on an architectural home, not run external conduit or things like that. It's just those little things. Inner city, suburbs as well, quite difficult. So, just people really need to plan and think about these things, and that's the space I'm in. So,
okay.
Yeah.
AWISE, what's the story there?
Yes, AWISE, Australian Women in Solar Energy. So we're a group of women founding members, 6 founding members, that came about through conversations, just wanting to network with other women in the industry. A group much needed, I suppose, to support other women in the industry, to highlight other women in the industry. I suppose you don't really know who's working in the solar industry. I find that there's a lot of companies out there with women working in the background, like either they're co-directors or general managers that I've necessarily never heard of, other people haven't heard of, and they're quite successful. And it's like, where are these women? There's so many women. And it was just a way to connect and promote women in this industry from all various admin, sales roles, directors, installers, and everything in between.
Okay. Is there like a specific mission statement or something from AWISE, or is it?
I think it's something like, together we can, together we will. Don't quote me on that, but it's something like that.
Well, if it's not that, that's pretty good. So
yeah, I printed off a banner the other day. I was like, I've actually never really spoken these words out. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's a little catchy slogan. Yeah,
that's
so
cool.
Together, yeah.
And so you sit on the board?
Founding members as such. So it's Keisha from Apprentice, founding member, Bobby from Integrity Solar.
Bobby McKibben?
Yep. Sam Craft from Energy Solar. And then we've got Sophie from RACV, myself and Christine Kennedy from Total Solar Solutions. We're the founding members.
Okay. And are you guys running any programs at the moment? Or
we've done a women's shelter previously. We've also just recently completed another women's shelter. So that's an exciting project that we worked on that we're going to, talk about soon.
Okay.
We've recently partnered with a training centre, a solar training centre, where a 3rd or 4th year apprentice, a female apprentice, was awarded a solar scholarship. Yeah, so that was funded through us. So that's a project that we've worked on at the moment.
Okay. And is there anything coming up in the pipeline that you're sort of working towards over the next couple of years? We've done another women's shelter, another community project. So we actually got fully sponsored for that one. So hopefully they'd like to take this Australia-wide. We'll wait and see what's going to come about that. That's cool.
Yeah, so for other community projects to come on board, yeah.
And you'll specifically be focusing on women's shelters initially?
I think we're going to broaden the horizon a bit and just other community organisations, not-for-profits.
Okay, I see. I mean, you're pretty plugged into the industry and, you're quite connected, quite a lot of people in the industry, a bit of a celebrity. What are your thoughts on the state of the industry in Australia at the moment in general?
I find it's interesting. It's how it's run. It's like, as a contractor, as an installer, I find that a lot of the focus, a lot of the compliance, a lot of the red tape is on the installer or the contractor a lot of the times, and the liability, it's quite high. Whereas I think we need to focus more on these retailers. These retailers, I don't even know if they're like legit retailers. Often, a lot of the times they're set up overseas. So there's no accountability.
They're set up overseas?
So like I find that some of these companies, I saw a lot of door knockers the other day, guys just roaming around in their shorts and T-shirts selling solar. They were coming through my suburb actually. And I thought, like, we allow these door knockers and these salespeople to bombard these customers. For me, as an accredited installer, as a retailer with the CEC, like there's so many things that I'm not allowed to do and I'm liable for, and that I need to provide information like, designs, payback period, just to say the least, and like product warranty. And I find, I've gone to a few sites where there's been door knockers or people bombarding them over the phone. And I'm like, what have they provided you? What's the design that they've given you? What's the ROI? What products? They're like, I don't know. I didn't get any of this information. But I almost signed up. Some of them signed up. They don't even know. They don't have a design. They don't have a payback period. They don't even know what panels they're getting installed. You know, they don't even know if the system is right for them. So this is an area that really needs to be addressed, because I think most people, most retailers, most installers in this industry are really trying their best to do the right thing. And unfortunately, some of these dodgy operators just fly under the radar, and no one, because our system, the way it's set up, you've got to kind of report them to fair trading, but a lot of the time people don't even know that they've been ripped off or lied to until it's too late. Then they don't want to go down that path. So this needs to be stopped prematurely, and this needs to be addressed. And the people that are in charge of, I suppose, like the rebates and the programs and all this compliance, they need to speak to people that are out in the field every day. They need to speak to the accredited retailers and installers and get genuine feedback, because we've been saying this a long time, but the issue isn't being addressed. It just keeps happening, you know. And unfortunately, it gives the industry a bad name, you know. Let the good people that are trying to do a good thing, let them keep doing well. And if there's any, like, you know, you get defected for a sticker or label being put in the wrong place, give these people an opportunity to address that issue. That's like a minor non-compliance, you know. The system, the way it's set up to punish you, you know, with demerit points and everything like that. We really need to like refocus on keeping the good people in the industry, because it's you can only take so much of this, and it's like I just kept, you know, as an installer or a contractor, be like, it's another brick wall, and it's like another hurdle to jump through, and it's mentally fatiguing going, and for like, you know, I'm reading online in the group, like they're getting audited, they get letters sent out, there's no window of opportunity to go put that label on to address it and move forward. It's like they're getting penalised, and it just puts a lot of pressure on you as a installer or as a small business.
So what happens there? So let's say it's the label issue, right?
You'll get, someone will come out, they'll audit your job. They might come out a year or two later. You'll get a defect notice in the mail, what you've done wrong. There might be demerit points associated with them, and there's no window to kind of, you can rectify it, but it's too late, you know, like it's like your demerit points are taken from you, now go fix it, but we still won't do anything about it, you know.
So you'll still get the demerit points taken even if you fix the problem?
Yeah, I don't know where you would get them back. I don't know if that exists, or not that I know of. But yeah, you know, we need to like sort of think of what we're doing. Like, you know, if it's a minor defect like that, is there a better process that we can approach? Is there a better system that we can have? Because these people are like, you know, 95% of the time are doing the right thing. Maybe something missing was in their packet or something. If it's normally it's a label or something like that. Can we address this in a different way, or do we need to target these door knockers and cold callers, and do they need to be responsible? Do they need to be liable just as everyone else is? You know, do they need to come up with a design? Do they need an ROI? You know, do they need to disclose warranty? Everything like that. You know, I get people, often it's friends and family. I've gotten a quote, like, show me the quote. They're like, it's just a 1-line email. And they've signed up to it. And I'm just like, well, I can't help you. Like, I don't even know what you're being sold, you know. But, you know, that's where we really need to address things in the industry. So
it's a hard problem.
Move forward,
Yeah. I mean, do you think that the answer is more governance or less governance, or because I've seen it in both ways, you know, where the more the government gets involved in things, the more they screw them up sometimes.
But why should one group of people need to meet so much criteria criteria and then others don't have to. It's sort of like it's not an even playing field. It's like you've got all these players, but some have handicaps and some have, you know, a lot of knowledge and they're doing the right thing, but they're getting punished because they're under, I suppose, a governance or a compliance system. But if you're outside of that, you don't really get punished because no one even knows what you've done or what you've sold. So where do we meet? What agreement do we come to?
Yeah.
And maybe some of it is in the sales, you know. Should you be allowed to sell people a system with having no risk, no liability to you, what you sell them?
Yeah. I guess the difference is, as a Sparky, you know, the risk there is more, it's a risk to health. With the sales guy, it's more a risk against, you know, someone buying a dodgy product and losing money, I suppose, you know. So I guess it's not as much of a health risk. So maybe that's why they don't have the same regulation requirements. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, anyone can install solar. You just don't get the rebate if you're, I suppose, not, you know, under the system as such. But it's for the ones that are selling. I think that's where the major problem is.
I didn't even realise that. I mean, I've heard it happening, but is it legal to door knock?
Yes, if you have the right structures in place, yes. In New South Wales it is. I think it might have been banned in Victoria, but in New South Wales, yes.
Samir, do you know? It's banned in Victoria, that's why I'm thinking, okay, interesting.
So in other states it might be allowed if you have the right processes and procedures in place.
Yeah, right, gotcha.
And if we're going to, like, say, accept that and say, okay, in the car industry, there's dodgy salespeople. In the solar industry, there's dodgy salespeople. Then why do we need all this governance and compliance? You know, do we have that in the car industry? Do we need that here? What's the benchmark? Is it different? Are they two separate industries? Is one has a financial return, a return on investment? You know, is that what we're selling? Are we getting rid of that? Are we keeping that? Who can sell that? I suppose there's a lot of issues rolled into one. Electrical safety. Okay, licensed electricians can install. You don't have to have any skills, I suppose, to sell cars. Do you need any skills to sell solar?
Well, yeah, I mean, and, you know, I guess there is an element of risk to life and health in the sales side of things too. You sell a dodgy racking system that's not compliant and gets installed, or you sell something knowing that the people who are going to be installing it aren't going to follow the rules because they need to save, you know, money here and there, cut corners. And in the same token, dodgy car salesmen might sell a car that they know is not safe, or, you know, they've sort of put a Band-Aid here where they should have made a fix. So I don't think we're going to solve the problem today, unfortunately.
No, it's just it's like if other industries, if we accept that there's dodgy people, why do we have so much compliance and governance in solar? Is it because of the risk, the liability of burning someone's roof down? If it's all installed proper to you know, the standards out there, should we be governed so heavily? You know, I suppose these are questions I wouldn't be able to answer that, but maybe there's a working group that, you know, need to think about all these things.
Yeah. Well, you know, these conversations do come up from time to time on social media, obviously, and I'm pretty sure the CEC makes some efforts to listen to, you know, what's happening out there. But yeah, it's a hard one.
It's tricky.
Have you been keeping your finger on the pulse with regards to any new technologies that might be coming out over the next year or two that you're sort of excited about? Or?
Not really. I think COVID slowed things down. So I think what was coming into the market has been, you know, put back 12 to 24 months.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, I suppose, panel technology. I don't know if there's anything new in the market or if the size is just getting bigger. The wattage is increasing. Obviously, batteries. People are interested in batteries. That's what consumers mostly call about now.
Okay, so you get a lot of calls for batteries.
Yes.
Yeah, right. That's cool.
I think a lot of people call for different reasons. Some people don't want to see their energy wasted and go back to the power company. They want to save it, store it in a battery, and then use it at night. Other people are like, oh, my feed-in tariff's now gone. I need a battery. What have you got? And then other people just don't like the power company. They don't want to pay them anything. And a lot of people want to go off-grid in the city, but, that's, to try and explain, that's quite hard when you have, several days of rain in winter and you don't have a big enough roof space to keep up with your energy demands. I suppose everything is possible, but, we're using, or people are using a lot more energy. It's, aircon and underfloor heating and heating in winter, EVs, all that jazz. So, I mean, it is possible, but it's, you have to limit and spread your energy use out.
Yeah. Are you getting much inquiries for things like EV chargers, or is that something that you guys have?
That sort of comes like after, I suppose, if we've done solar battery, then the EV's coming down the track when people are upgrading. So when they're looking to upgrade their vehicle, sometimes we might provision for that. Not so many to install. A lot of people are just running it from their plug, charging their vehicle. Because I think what I've found is a lot of, especially in Sydney, townhouses and units, it's not possible to wire into their garage, where their vehicles are. So they're just running, an extension cord through their balcony or window or something like that. And then to get strata approval, sometimes quite difficult. It takes a year or two, the process.
Sure.
So there's inquiries, but as opposed to installing them, not many, because people still have to get approval for that process. So
Okay.
a lot of the people that we work with in Sydney I've installed for in that situation.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like it's just business as usual for the next few months at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Cool.
I think until everything settles down,
Yeah. Who knows when that will be.
Hopefully soon.
Lily, thank you so much for joining us today on Convos.
Thank you for having me.
It's been a pleasure. It'll be great to have you back again for another future episode, hopefully.
Yes.
And thanks to the viewers for watching again. Remember to hit the like and smash the subscribe button, and keep an eye out for more upcoming content. Check out more episodes from Convos with Clenergy. Slap that subscribe button now. Cheers, cutters.